leading the Battle of Britain Memorial Flight, Avro Lancaster. The B-17 and the Lancaster were not the only types used on the Allied offensive. The short Stirling and the Handley Page Halifax also by Bomber Command. And on the US 8th Air Force's part, the consolidated B-24 Liberator. But the B-17 and the Lanc are the most famous exemplars. Both were conceived for basically the same role, that of a heavy bomber, but there were many differences. The B-17 was devised in the early 1930s with a view to long-range missions, possibly to bomb potential coastal invaders. It was first flown in 1935. The Lancaster was a vastly improved four-engine development of the earlier Avro Manchester twin, which was a late 1930s design with its maiden flight in January 1942. It helped explain how their capabilities varied, and in particular the different sizes of the two aircraft's bomb bays, and we're going to see that compared on this next pass with bomb doors open on both the B-17 and the Lancaster. Simply, the B-17 flew at higher altitudes by day, the Lancaster somewhat lower at night. It's difficult to define a typical bomb load for each of these aircraft, but a roughly normal bomb load for a B-17 would be in the region of 6,000 pounds. That's around 2,720 kilos. The Lancaster, by contrast, double that, circa 12,000 pounds. And the Lancaster was able to carry the largest bomb load of any bomber that was used in the European theatre, including specialised weapons such as the Upkeep bouncing bomb for the Dams raid and the 22,000-pound Grand Slam when the bomb bay doors were modified. The B-17's bomb bay may be shorter than that of the Lancaster, but it's much wider and deeper.
It would get very messy.
No matter what the differences were between their mounts, though, the heroism of their crews was immense, as was their sacrifice. Some 120,000 people served in Bomber Command during World War II. Of them, 55,573 were killed. Nearly 3,250 Lancasters were lost in action. More than 26,000 8th Air Force personnel out of 350,000 lost their lives. In excess of 10,000 of its aircraft were lost, nearly half of them estimated to be B-17s. The raw statistics can never tell the complete story, it goes without saying, but as the B-17 and Lancaster split there, we should reflect upon the final toll of the Allied bomber offensive. At least 80,000 Allied airmen and around 750,000 men, women and children on the ground. But running in now for its solo display in remembrance of the 8th Air Force as ever, B-17 Sally B. privately owned and most incredibly potent flying memorial to the United States airmen who served in particular in East Anglia during the Second World War, carries still on one side of its nose the nose art of Memphis Belle, the 91st Bomb Group aircraft that achieved that notable milestone 80 years ago, and which was of course the subject of William Wyler's wartime documentary chronicling the progress towards that epoch-making mission.
The wheels of the Memphis Belle leave the soil for the 25th time. The friendly soil of England, with its ordered farms and rural hamlets, its country estates surrounded by formal gardens and well-kept parks. The England of the towns and cities, whose people have defended their island's freedom for over 1,000 years. But today, their countryside has changed. Today, their island has been converted into a gigantic bomber field, a super aircraft carrier anchored off the shores of Fortress Europe, with hangars and machine shops, with hundreds of dispersal points, perimeter tracks, and concrete runways. This is England in its 5th year of war. And this is the new battlefront, the air front, from which we seek out the enemy. Not his infantry or his artillery, not his panzer divisions, but the greater menace, the industrial heart of his nation, the foundation on which the Nazi Empire and its armies stand, the power behind the German lust for conquest. The steel mills and refineries, shipyards and submarine pens, factories and munitions plants, pinpoints on the map of Europe which mean rubber, guns, ball bearings, shells, engines, planes, tanks, targets. Targets to be destroyed. And these are the destroyers, each with a belly full of bombs, and 10 men like the crew of the Memphis Belle.
B-17s like this and B-24s like the one you can see in the American Air Museum here were stationed at dozens upon dozens of bases across East Anglia with the 8th Air Force. And so it's so hugely fitting that Sally B should continue to fly from these parts. And this it's done in private hands since 1975, the most remarkable achievement. Privately operated by B-17 Preservation under the tireless leadership of Ellie Sallingbow and supported by the members of the Sally B Supporters Club, which you can join here by going to their stand situated just in front of the nose of the B-17 once it's parked back up, and in so doing help ensure that sites like the one we've just seen will carry on being witnessed for many, many more years to come. And this final pass of Sally B's display, which has been captained today by Dutchman Peter Kuipers with co-pilot Paul Schluer, is always dedicated to the members of the Sally B Supporters Club. And it takes place with smoke on 2 of the engines to represent the state in which many B-17s returned from wartime operations. This now the only B-17 airworthy in Europe, not just in the UK. And I think after that remarkable formation, we really should say thank you to Ellie Sallingbow, to the crew of Sally B, to all of the Battle of Britain Memorial Flight and the Flying Display team here at Duxford for enabling that remarkable bomber formation. Thank you. The B-17 now being brought round to land. This a representative of the B-17G model, the definitive wartime flying fortress, and it really did live up to that name which had first been bestowed when the prototype appeared in 1935. 13.5-inch machine guns providing defensive armament, including 2 in the chin turret below the nose. This one of 12,731 B-17s that were produced, this one by the Lockheed Vega plant at Burbank in California. And as we mark the 50th anniversary of IWM Duxford Air Shows this year, it's worth reflecting on the fact that I suspect this aircraft will have appeared in more of those shows than possibly any other single airframe, and all of this in private hands. Kuipers touching down with B-17 Flying Fortress Sally B.